again, everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown right along ringside. By golly, we're about ready to go with more big action.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm Gordon Soler, your host, and we have quite an hour in store for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Championship Wrestling at ringside. This is Vince McMahon, along with wrestling's only living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, another outstanding card.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. I am, as always, Ray Russell, and this week, a very familiar voice going to return to the airwaves here on Regional Wrestling as we head back to 1985 in Memphis, Rasslin. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on Mr. Mempho himself. Not Nympho, it's Mempho. I'll be Mr. Nympho, though. That's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Gene Jackson.
Hey now, how we going?
What's happening, man?
Oh, not much. It's been a while since we've visited 1985 here in Memphis, so I think it's good to be back.
I think so. Yes, I made a brief comment offline before we started this one. I typically enjoy, and don't get me wrong, we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. Boy, are we. But I typically enjoy going back to 1985. This episode, not so much. And I hopefully everybody's going to stay tuned to find out why, because there's some things going on, man. It just, even for Memphis, don't make much sense. And so think about that, guys, as we get rolling here.
Yeah, that's a mouthful right there. Even for Memphis, that doesn't make sense, because the more Memphis that I continue to take in, the more it's reminding me, it's like, wow, Memphis, I think some of us romanticize it in our head that it was overall better than it wasn't. And I'm not saying it wasn't good. I'm not saying I don't love it, but man, there was a lot more questionable stuff than I think a lot of us want to remember once we start to go back and watch this.
Glutton for punishment is Gene Jackson. You got 93 USWA, you got Memphis 85, and you got Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich over there doing all sorts of Memphis memories and things. So yeah, you're stuck, man. And I mean, it could be worse, right? I mean, you could be not recording any shows, but Memphis everywhere for Gene Jackson right now. And so this is just one of them. It all started with the 1985, and now you've kind of broadened your horizons, and you're finding out that there's a little bit of bad in every year, not just in Memphis, but probably any territory.
Well, just remember, there was a time where I used to do a Herb Abrams UWF podcast, so Glutton for Punishment may be my nickname. Who knows?
Could be, yeah, now that you mention it. I never thought of that. I forgot all about that.
Most people are still trying to.
Well, at the beginning of the show, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to recap last week in the Memphis territory as the Macho Man Randy Savage vowed, no more Mr. Nice Guy, Jerry Lawler. Boy, that's a scary thought. No more Mr. Nice Guy from the Macho Man.
Yeah, folks, just everything you've heard us describe so far from the Macho Man has been, in Randy Savage's mind anyway, that's been Mr. Nice Guy. So Jerry Lawler's in for it.
No more, no way, never. Madness is coming after the king. Of course, the Southern champion is Randy Savage, but just when you think we have the answers here on Regional Wrestling, Memphis booking going to change the questions. Jerry Lawler seeking revenge, of course, returning from being put out for a month at the hands of the Macho Man. Lawler coming for revenge and hopefully to regain his Southern title. When in steps Dr. D. David Schultz, who is also back in Memphis after slapping John Stossel, and he's also causing issues for Jerry Lawler. So we got this major angle setting up a huge feud in return for Lawler and Savage, and then out of nowhere, David Schultz thrown in as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big name for Memphis because Lord knows he was infamous at the time. He had been all over mainstream media after slapping John Stossel, yet none of the big wrestling promotions would touch him with a 10-foot pole. Of course, Memphis is like, hey, yeah, slap your Nazi shirt on and come on down, buddy.
There you go. I was going to say they don't want to touch him for many reasons. John Stossel's situation, just one of them. We got more to come on that later in this episode. The PYTs done beat the living shit out of everyone in the studio last week, Gene, but most specifically those poor Batten boys.
Yes, the brutal beating of the Batten Twins continues on. So far, if there's a consistent theme of Memphis 1985, it seems to be fuck the Batten Twins.
And that will continue here. The streak will continue, I promise you guys. Stay tuned for that. The Batten Twins getting beaten all over the ring last week with leather straps across the face and the eye. Who knows? Poor Batten Twins. Now you see him, now you don't, guys. Remember, Moondog Rex recently made his return to Memphis, but seemingly already disappeared from the territory overnight. But he's off to greener pastures, working for Bill Watts and the Mid-South Wrestling promotion.
Yeah, probably not a bad call, considering everything that's going on. We kind of covered at the end of, the last episode how pretty crowded at the top of the heel roster. So probably good to keep it moving, head on down to Mid-South, pair up with Hot Stuff, and see how things go.
Yeah, and have a run with their top title. North American champion will Moondog Rex be down there under an assumed name. With the summer now creeping up on us, last week, Jerry Lawler promising us a good old-fashioned Memphis barbecue. Unfortunate for the unaware Lance Russell, who had his arm hair singed. For crying out loud, Jerry. Lance Russell didn't look too happy. Left the studio for the commercial break. He returned. Don't worry, guys. But you have to imagine there was some apologizing going on in the locker room area.
No, that didn't appeal to any of Lance's nature when that happened last time.
Not my Scotch nature, not my Irish nature, not any nature, Jerry. Come on now, King. So, yeah, Lawler throwing fireballs in the studio. You got to give guys the heads up when you're going to do that, King. Believe it or not, Tom Renesto has pulled some strings, and of all the talent he's been bringing in, he called in some debts, and it appears Bruiser Brody is going to be heading into Memphis.
That's an interesting call there. You got Dr. D, David Schultz in there. You got Macho Man, Randy Savage. Gee, guys, I don't think this is volatile enough. Who could we add to the mix that could just make this just a little over the top crazy? I know. Let's bring Bruiser freaking Brody into the picture. Wow.
Can't wait to see how this works out with all these guys in the same promotion at the same time. And another heel currently in town is Kareem Muhammad. You can add him to the list of talent being brought into the territory. Another big name on the heel side, which makes the babyface side even more exposed. Very lopsided right now. We're stacked with top main event, or at least semi-main event caliber heels, depending on how you want to look at things. On the other side, it's like Jerry Lawler and the Fabs, but they're in the tag team division. So really, it's really just the King right now.
Yeah, unless we're going to put a lot of stock in Oski, that's about it.
Well, we got things coming up here later in this episode of Regional Rasslin involving Mr. Oski. Stay tuned, guys. Speaking of exposing things, keep your minds out of the gutter, guys. Jerry Lawler basically exposed the business last week, courtesy of the Battle of the DJs, when we learned that Ron Olson broke his arm while practicing wrestling moves with his would-be opponent, Steve Connolly. We also learned that Tom Prestigiacomo would step in to replace Olson. But spoiler alert, Gene, I went ahead and watched the matchup, unfortunately. It's part of the upcoming Jerry Lawler show, and apparently that didn't work for Mr. Prestigiacomo to do a job, brother. Doesn't work for me, dude, because I have learned that he, too, was replaced by a AM DJ, God forbid, an AM DJ, Bill Dodson. So we're now 3 DJs deep into this opponent for Steve Connolly.
My goodness. That one DJ is a pretty dangerous dude. He's taking people out. He's scaring people off.
It's scary to me to be Connolly's opponent because Steve has got to be crapping his pants at this point. This is a guy who does not know how to work. He's not a wrestler. He's not a trained wrestler. He's learned a couple of moves, likely, walking into this thing, and they've changed opponents on him. This is his third guy he's walking in the ring. That's not a safe environment for anybody involved.
No, and, for Lawler and them in Memphis, who, they were always quick to mock the WWF and, say that they were entertainment while they were real wrestling and everything. It's funny that, even Vince McMahon never went out there and talked about Mr. T practicing for his wrestling match or anything. Right. It's just funny that Lawler would be the one of all people to expose the business with his DJ shenanigans there.
Yeah. Well, what can you do? We're going to talk a little bit more about the Battle of the DJs when we get to the Jerry Lawler show later on. But right now, guys, we head off to May the 4th, 1985, and some more CWA Championship Wrestling. right, away we go. Another 90 minutes of fun here on TV5, WMC TV5 Studios. And it's Lance and Dave right along ringside, Davey, as we kick things off with Jerry Oski in the ring, taking on the Invaders straight to the ring again this week, Gene. So they're continuing this format. It's not just a one-off. Lots of the basics here. Grounded head scissors, headlocks, wrist locks, hammer locks. I'm seeing a trend. Is the Invader going to try for a shoulder tackle, but runs into a press slam? Well, that was new. Oski following that exciting spot up with a chin lock. Way to be, Jerry. Invader eventually going to grab himself a side headlock, which Oski counters with a back suplex. And apparently, that's all it takes. Jerry Oski gets a win, 4 minutes and 27 seconds. That'll get you a fun. So basically, the job guy grabbing a side headlock and the top star countering said headlock with a back suplex, and that was the finish. Kind of peculiar.
Yeah, funny they would steal the finish to the Jerry Lawler Andy Kaufman match from a couple of years prior. But maybe. Yeah, I don't know, man. If we're putting this much stock in Oski, and you think you would see, hey man, I got an opportunity here. There's really not any other baby faces. I'm wide open here. He would maybe step his game up. But any hold in wrestling that had the word lock in it, he pulled it out for this match.
Except for the finger lock. He didn't have his fingers locked, Jess, and thus putting the Invader away. And you mentioned the finish of the Lawler-Kaufman match. Do you think maybe under that hood? Could it be? I don't know. But that's not the last time I'm going to bring up Andy Kaufman here this week, so stay tuned for that as well, guys. But right now on the program, we go back to last week. We're reminded of the PYTs whipping several of the baby faces. We get the video clips once again, watching them swat away at the likes of the Battens, Constance and Ashley, and of course, Jerry Oski. So causing all kinds of havoc. And that leads us to this week, Lance Russell bringing out the brand new matchmaker here in the Memphis territory, Tom Renesto, which is not far off because he is indeed the booker right now in Memphis. And Tom going to come out here and talk all kinds of bullshit. And it all starts when he says that he took a national survey for a local promotion. And that survey says they want more 2 out of 3 fall matches. What city, what state, what time zone are we in where the fans are voting for 2 out of 3 fall action?
Yeah, I'm calling absolute bullshit on that. I mean, come on.
A national survey that says we want 2 out of 3 falls. I wrote in my notes, no, we don't. But we're going to have one here today anyway, Gene. Can't wait for that. Also, the fans are apparently sick and tired of the outside interference. Well, I'll agree with him on that one. Tom says, there will be no saves. You can get away with it once, but no more. I don't understand what he was talking about here. No more saves. There will be no more run-ins, he said.
I can only assume that's referring to tag matches, I guess, where people come in and break up pins or something. But, I mean, the way he didn't specify to that, it makes it sound like, well, you get one run-in per match, and then after that, it's a disqualification. There's no say. I don't know. Well, Mr. Charisma here is just batting
I am not a fan. This is not a fan-friendly president, if you will, right? So he says the fans, they want to see a winner. Well, we've been saying that all along. They're sick of the DQs. And Tom is dead serious. There will be no more time limit draws here in Memphis because we are now going to have 5-minute sudden death periods after the time limit draws. That seems a little bit monotonous, but there will be finishes moving forward, promises Renesto, in Memphis for that matter. Let's see how long that lasts. Promising us finishes, clean finishes, 1, 2, 3s here in the city of Memphis.
I would assume that won't last to the end of this show, Ray, but we shall see. 5-minute sudden death. So pretty much any time limit they set, you can just tack an extra 5 minutes to that. And then what happens if nothing haapens during that 5 minutes?
2 minutes sudden death.
And at that point, you might as well just say there's no time limit in matches anymore.
So let's see here. We can have no more run-ins or saves or whatever, and then 5-minute sudden death periods because we want a winner. No more time limit draws here in Memphis. I feel like this is setting everyone up for a major letdown. And he doesn't even address the PYT situation. Coming out here repeatedly last week, beating everyone with belts. That was what led to this interview. We went back and saw a clip of the PYTs causing all that chaos last week, and they don't even address it here.
Well, he did a national survey, and it turns out everyone in the country wanted to see Constance and Ashley and the Battens have the shit beat out of them with belts, so it was okay.
Okay, survey says Yeah, okay, we'll go along with especially Constance and Ashley. Speaking of Constance and Ashley, I hope nobody voted for. I'm gonna go on a limb and say nobody voted for this one. Remember, he promised a 2 out of 3 fall match this week. Well, the PYT Express headed to the ring with Tux Newman in their corner. Their opponents in this 2 out of 3 fall match, Constance and Ashley, still here after all the matches we've been watching. Now they decide what a great idea to put these guys in a match that could go 3 falls. And we also see Tux Newman out here sporting a neck brace. And at this point in the show, no explanation given because Memphis. And as the bell sounds, fall number 1, 30 seconds in, the PYT is going to hit a freaking doomsday device of sorts. Coco off the middle rope with the clothesline on Constance, while Norvell going to hold him up there. So leading to Ashley coming in for a 4-way melee, 30 seconds into the match, guys. And here come the Fabs with straps in hand attacking the PYTs. 50 seconds into the first fall, and immediately after Tom Renesto promised us no more interference and definitive winners, we get ourselves our first DQ due to outside interference. You can't make this shit up.
I literally just face palmed myself watching this after that promo. You sit through that promo, and like you said, less than a minute later, we've got a fucking run in. It just, I don't know, man. It's Memphis.
If Tom Renesto had been a figurehead and he was put out there to cut this promo, I wouldn't fault him because he can't control what's about to happen in the next segment. But he's the fucking booker. He knew this was going to happen in the next segment. So I'm just totally dumbfounded.
Watch this, guys. It's going to be great. I'm going to make myself look like a complete freaking idiot. Oh, it's going to be amazing.
So, less than a minute into the matchup, the Fabulous Ones come out and basically cause some chaos, attacking the PYTs with straps, drawing a disqualification, and then we get an interview from the Fabs, who say the PYTs have whipped everybody, but the Fabs aren't getting whipped again. Stan Lane is starting to get off on this leather, Gene, inviting the PYTs to get their own straps, and he says, let's strap each other around. Let's whip somebody. All right, Stan. Eddie Marlin and Tom Renesto out to restore some order as the Fab's going to argue with them. And out next is Billy Travis to relay a message from the PYT, who refuse to return to wrestle until the Fabs leave with their straps. Stan then mocking Billy Joe, having a cold sore, I don't know what that was about, before the Fabs hand over their straps to Eddie Marlin and leave the studio. So, we have the Fabs out here. They're looking for revenge. Renesto and Marlin saying, you guys got to get out of here, but they don't really do a whole lot to the Fabs. So what's to stop them from coming back? Well, stay tuned.
As I'm watching this, I'm wondering if I hit my head at some point and miss the big Billy Travis heel turn.
Yeah. It's he's got a speaking part now, and we're more Billy Travis to come here in a little bit as well. Looking forward to that, but it's just, it's kind of crazy, guys. And it doesn't end there. Basically, Tom Renesto states, we want a decision out of every fall. So apparently there was no disqualification. Put it out of your mind, guys. That first fall never happened. And thus we are restarting, or maybe starting from the beginning, fall number 1 all over again. And I wrote here in my notes, what in the convoluted fuck? I have to watch 4 falls now between Constance and Ashley and the PYTs as we start fall number 1 again, I guess. Ashley going to land a big backdrop on Coco Ware, but the PYT take over pretty quickly. And it's the Fabulous Ones attacking again. You heard me right, guys. Another disqualification, even though Lance just said there would be no disqualification. About another minute into the match. What the hell are we doing here?
I wish to God we had shoot interviews back in 1985, or at least Renesto would have been around by the time these became popular, because I would love to hear his theory on why any of this, A, made any sense, or B, why he thinks this was good or anyone was entertained by any of this shit. And of all people, the tag team of Constance and Ashley, let's pin an extra fall. Our people are already going to be rolling their eyes and groaning when we say 2 out of 3. Let's just keep adding falls until we can see how many people will turn the freaking show off. What the hell?
Without the Renesto promo, this would be confusing. but factoring in what he promised we would never see again and then giving it to us not once, but twice in a matter of 2 minutes of wrestling action is just insane. And like I said, man, I've seen a lot of shit in my life, lots of video footage, lots of Memphis, in fact, but this makes less sense than maybe anything I've ever seen ever.
Even Randy Hales would be confused by this, you know. I don't make any sense. No disqualification, then you do 2 disqualifications. It's oh God.
They'd have Randy's eyes looking in different places, man. I don't even know what's going on here. So we get another disqualification. The Fabs attacking the PYT once again. Constance and Ashley going to put a beating on Norvell Austin on the outside while the Fabs double team Coco Ware, ramming him into the post and a nasty fucking chair shot upside down swung by Steve Kern on Coco. That was I wrote, fuck me, what a nasty shot by Kern. And we know Kern and Coco have had issues in the past. And maybe it stemmed from this, man. I don't know, but it was a pretty dangerous shot there from Steve Kern. But once again, to save the day, Tom Renesto and Eddie Marlin back out to break things up once again.
If it was anybody else, I would have felt sorry for him on that chair thing, but I've watched Coco drop so many people on their head where I'm just like, that's karma, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, no kidding, man. And maybe Steve, did that for someone. Who knows? I don't really know what was behind that. Maybe he was just feeling frisky today. They like the leather. Maybe they like the steel as well. But yeah, this is, remember guys, that was fall number 1 again. So this match is not over, by the way. And after break, Lance Russell says we're ready for the second fall. But wait a minute, fall number 1 ended in a disqualification again, even though it can't. So wouldn't this be fall number 1, take 3? I'm not going to argue it. Fall number 2 it is. The heels leading by disqualification. They got a fall, 1 fall. So apparently, if you have 2 disqualifications, that equals 1 pinfall, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I was scratching my head. I actually ran this back when he said, we're in the second fall. I'm like, well, wait a minute. We couldn't let the first fall end with a DQ the first time, but apparently we're going to amend the rules that if you manage to pull a DQ twice, then you can move on to the next fall. I don't know what the fuck's happening here.
And what's to stop the second fall or this fall from ending in a DQ at this point? I have no idea. This may literally be the most confusing bunch of shit I've ever seen. And I've seen some of that. Vince Russo booked WCW, by the way. So just think about that for a minute, man. It's crazy.
How
shit.
great would it have been after that announcement if we'd have had 3 falls straight of DQs after he said there'd be no people want to see 2 out of 3 falls and they don't want to see DQs. And we just every time the Fabs run in till they finally just had to say, all right, fuck it, it's over.
They restart fall number 1 for the entire 90 minutes.
Yes.
Oh man. It would have been classic Memphis TV, not for any good reason, but it was certainly been talked about for the rest of time.
Even Lance was like, oh, come on, Renesto.
For crying out loud. These guys can't even throw fucking drop kicks.
I'd rather have flour dumped on my fucking head 3 times than this.
Yeah. Oh, poor Lance and Dave have to make sense of this on commentary. You're making us look like fools out here. As the matchmaker avows no more run-ins, no more disqualifications, decisive finishes, and so the first thing we get after that statement is interference and a disqualification. So they restart the match, and we get more interference and another disqualification. And now it sticks, as we said, so nobody's suspended, nobody fined, so what's to stop it from happening again? Well, we'll have to wait and see. As it is fall number 2, I suppose, the heels returning, Tux, Norvell, and Billy Travis out here in a sequin robe. Where'd he get that thing made? Replacing Coco Ware for this fall, who now has his arm in a sling, injured. They claim his shoulder was separated in the previous fall, so Coco gonna stand ringside. Meanwhile, Billy Travis, apparently, like you said, when did this heel turn take place? Because he's not just out here replacing Ware, but he's even got himself a nice little robe to go along with the shtick.
Yeah, I mean, he went from being a babyface jobber to a heel with a personality and a robe, and he's teaming up with the main event tag team. I don't know what is happening this week.
That's Memphis for you guys. The bell going to sound. Billy Travis, not faring too well, takes a nice backdrop, really up into the fucking lights. He got up there high. Is Billy able to tag to Norvell, though, who takes control? Nice swinging neckbreaker, puts down Ashley, even allows Travis to land some offense. Nice pump splash out of the corner. The old Vader bomb by Billy Travis here, who actually gets in some moves. Referee, though, going to miss a tag to Steve Constance, and shoulder breaker and power slam by Austin, going to put Ashley down. And then Billy Travis fighting with Constance while Norvell landing a top rope fist drop, going to score the win. And I guess that means 2 straight falls, and the makeshift team of Norvell, Austin, and Billy Travis going to get the win with some help, ironically, from the Fabulous Ones.
It's over. That's all I can say
over?
about it. That is the takeaway, is the match has finally ended. We can move past it.
Well, the match is over, but the action continues. Post-match, Coco Ware, going to jump in with one arm, begin swatting the faces with the leather strap because he don't give no fucks. Constance actually going to bail on his partner while the Fabs are out quickly with their own straps that they had been given to. Remember, they give those to Eddie Marlin. Somehow they got him back, and they run the heels off. And now it's my turn. In my notes here, I wrote, holy shit, I have never been so glad a match or a segment was over. That hurt my brain.
Yeah, we're off to a rough start here this week, Ray. I just don't know, man.
I feel like, it took us 20 minutes to explain 3 minutes of action. It's insane what we just watched. And literally when it was done, I was just so relieved. I was so sick of typing and trying to make what I was reading that I was writing make sense. That at least sense enough that I could explain it to everybody listening out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And it's like, all these years later, you're having to try to explain this to people, make it make sense. I just can't imagine sitting there on Saturday morning in 1985 and, trying to make sense of it then. When they weren't looking at it the way we're looking at it now, they're actually wanting to believe this shit. And it's like, they don't know who Tim Renesto is. They don't know all they know is this is the guy who's the matchmaker now. So he's, he took a survey. He's trying to do what's, right by us. And then we immediately, there's not going to be any more disqualifications. There's a disqualification. Well, disqualifications don't count. We're going to restart that fall. Okay, second fall. That first one, ended in disqualification. The second one ended in disqualification. Like, I don't know.
And then to add to
get better, right?
Yeah, well, Coco getting replaced by Billy Travis, who's randomly a heel now. Lots of confusion so far on this episode. And normally I would encourage people to go watch it to figure it out for themselves, but I don't encourage anybody to ever go back and watch these segments of the show. The rest of the show, maybe. But for the first half hour, 20 minutes, whatever it's been, just skip that part, guys. The Fab's going to cut yet another promo, and they state that if Coco Ware is able, it's going to be the Fabulous Ones coming for the Southern titles this week against the PYT at the Mid-South Coliseum. And the fans are going to be holding the straps, but they won't be using the straps. They're going to hand them to the Fabulous Ones. Okay. Steve Kern making it clear this match that's upcoming here with the fans holding the straps is not no disqualification. So he says there may be a disqualification. I wrote, what the fuck? So we were told earlier there will be there will be no more DQs. Steve Kern telling everybody, well, there might be a DQ actually. So something about Tux wearing a Mexican jacket with a bunch of belts hanging from it was also mentioned here. You can see the old guy holding open the old suit with the watches hanging. I don't know but the segment's over, and I wrote, I'm done. I was so happy to be done.
I feel like, or at least I hope, that like after coming in and Renesto explains that last segment to Kern, and then he walks away and he looks at Lane like, did you get that? Did you hear what he wants us to do? And then after all that, he wanted to just point out like, and by the way, this isn't a no DQ, so there's still a chance there could be a DQ. Even though we've been told there will no longer be disqualifications. So yeah, it's I feel like Steve and Stan were standing in the back trying to watch this story unfold, and when it didn't make any sense any longer, Steve just added to it. It was like a rib, like you said. Yeah, it was so out of place. It was such a weird thing to add that it had to be done just to like pop the boys watching the monitor or try to make Steve break character, or even Lance or somebody or something. But it wasn't for the audience. It was for somebody else. It had to be. Right. So up next on the show, it's
Well, I don't want to say more of the same. It's definitely not more of the same. No, it's a rundown for the Mid-South Coliseum card this Monday night, May the 6th. On the card right now, slated to see Billy Travis take on Tracy Smothers. Adrian Street going to return to take on Steve Constance. Kareem Muhammad steps in the ring against Tim Ashley. It's Jerry Oski versus Lanny Poffo in a no DQ match. Okay. Southern Tag Team titles on the line, as we know it right now. The PYTs, if Coco's able to make it, will take on the Fabulous Ones. And in the main event, Dr. D, David Schultz teaming with the Macho Man, Randy Savage, their opponents, Jerry the King Lawler, and a mystery partner.
I like, Tracy Smothers and Adrian Street and some of those guys, but I'm going to be a bit like Richard on my USWA show. Mm-hmm. If I'm coming to this show, I'm coming after intermission. I don't need to see any of that shit at the beginning. I'll start with the tag match.
Well, the Constance and Ashley matches are bad enough as it is. Why would you break them up into singles? My God.
Yes.
And of course,
another Oski Poffo match. No thanks.
Well, we've seen enough of the Oski and Poffo. I get why they want to escalate it and tack on a no disqualification tag to this match. But at the same time, I thought there were no DQs. So I don't know. It's weird.
Exactly. And then the tag title match following it, Steve Kearns already warned us, hey, there could be a disqualification in this one. But don't worry. All bets are off in the Poffo-Oski match.
Can't wait till we get there to see what really happens with that one. But right now, we go back in time to last week, Mid-South Coliseum, VTR of Randy Savage defending the Southern title against the King, Jerry Lawler. 2 out of 3 falls. We go straight to the finish of the third fall. It appears the King has the match in his hand. He may be regaining that Southern title when out of nowhere, Dr. D, David Schultz attacking Jerry Lawler, drawing the disqualification. Lawler's going to get the victory, but he won't win the title.
So maybe this is when Renesto had this epiphany when our main event was a 2 out of 3 fall match that ended in a disqualification. I'm sure the fans shit on it and was like, well, let's ease their mind by going on TV and telling them we're not going to have any more disqualifications. But then let's fuck them by immediately going right into 2 more.
In a 2 out of 3 fall match. No less.
In a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Well, this next match is 1 fall, I'll have you know. Unfortunately, I would have rather this been the 2 out of 3 fall match. It's the Macho Man Randy Savage teaming with Dr. D, David Schultz, preparing for Monday night, and their opponents, you guessed it, guys, Brad and Mark, those poor Batten Twins.
Can you imagine if this match had went that way and the first fall just keeps starting over? I mean, it would be like the Batten's personal hell. Like, this is the first fall just keeps starting over because of a DQ. They're just endlessly going to get beaten on by Randy Savage and Dr. D.
Every week, it's something new for the Batten Twins, and it's never good. And it was even Randy Savage taking out both of them just a couple weeks ago. But you can't make this shit up. I think we hypothesized on the last episode, what's left? There's nothing left for the Battens outside of maybe Randy Savage and David Schultz, and here it is. Poor Batten Twins. Even Lance Russell on commentary, the match doesn't even start, and you can just hear Lance's sadness for those guys. He's, poor guys. As Randy out here rocking kind of a cool green sleeveless robe, though, and Schultz in a airbrush t-shirt in the form of a swastika. Like, why, Dave? It's 1985. Just why?
Because fuck y'all, that's why.
I'm going to get some heat, boy.
I feel like Lance wanted to call them a poor bastard Batten Twins.
Well, it may be by the time this one's over. As the action gets going, David Schultz, right out of the gate, going to bust out the old trusty tombstone pile driver as the very first move of the match. So you can imagine what we get from there. Actually, Schultz going to use a couple of snap suplexes here on Brad Batten. Meanwhile, on the outside, Randy Savage attacking Mark Batten on the floor, and he wants to suplex him. And I go, and I thought to myself, dear God, but Mark says, fuck that shit, and blocks it. And finally, after all these weeks, these months, a Batten stands up for himself, refusing to take a fucking suplex on the floor. And Savage, surprisingly, cooperates. So he just drills Mark in the face instead.
That's fair. That's fair. I get it.
Did you catch that where Savage was fighting for the suplex and it was clear Mark was going, no, we're not doing that right now.
Yeah. It's like he's in there pleading, like, for fuck's sake, Randy, come on, man, come on. All right.
Well, anyways, back to the ring for a doomsday device now by Schultz and Savage. Oh my God! And then the middle rope flying elbow. Savage going a little light this week, coming off the middle rope. Is going to score the win for the heels in 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Remember when I said Mark Batten didn't want to take that suplex from Randy Savage? Well, post-match, David Schultz just don't give a fuck. Gonna slam Mark out there on the floor. Savage to the top rope with a double axe handle out on the floor to Brad Batten. And now Mark Batten getting suplexed by Dr. D on the outside because unlike the Macho Man, David Schultz don't give no fucks.
Boy, you gonna take your suplex.
I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you what I tell all the girls out there. It's happening, bitch. Oh, man. And then, for good measure, if that wasn't enough, the Batten Twins somehow making it back to their feet, so Dr. D with Polish hammers to their faces. Both Mark and Brad Batten go down as Eddie Marlin and Tom Renesto finally out again, as Savage destroys a poster from one of the fans. It'll teach you not to use glitter. Uh-huh.
I feel like the Battens are like the 1985 version of, oh my God, you killed Kenny.
Yeah. Like, the original Mulkeys,
kill the Battens every week.
I don't get it. They have enough. They're certainly better than Constance and Ashley. And I know they don't have those bodies. They don't have that size. But still, man, why would you abuse two guys that can work at the level they can?
I don't know, man. I don't know if they banged somebody's wife at some point or tried to, or I don't know. But they have done, you can't convince me they haven't done something to somebody.
I heard a story about them and Teeny Jarrett once. No, never mind. Maybe not. Okay, so we continue on. Savage and Dr. D murder the Battens this week. And then we hear from Tux Newman as they send Constance and Ashley, the one with the mustache, whichever one it is, back out after the break, showing off his open wound, if you will. He got beat up pretty bad in their match earlier with the PYTs getting strapped. You would think, as he's cutting this promo, showing off this wound on his body, he should be hot. He should be pissed off. But he sounds calmer than a babyface Bob Backlund. Oh, well, I'm out here, and look what he did to me, Lance. It's terrible, terrible stuff. And again, just sending someone out to show off their legit injuries. We saw that with one of the Battens both the Battens a few weeks ago. And Constance or Ashley, whichever one this is, I get them confused. It's funny how I can tell the Battens apart, but not so much Constance and Ashley. That's just how much I don't give a shit, right? And so they've been here for 6 months, and the guy still doesn't even know how to act mad. And if he has to go to Beverly Hills, he says, to find Tux Newman, who is standing right in front of him, by the way, as he says, I'll get you for this, in the most calmest voice possible. I'm going to get you, Gene. I'm going to get revenge. I'm very angry.
I don't care if I have to go to Beverly Hills. I'll get you.
Well, that's kind of scary. You said it. That was scary. It didn't sound like that on his mouth.
No, there was not an ounce of a threat to what he said. It was just like a very, very bad actor. Like, it wasn't even, I don't know. And then we were still alternating between Constant and Constance, yes, with the announcers and the graphics and everything. Like, we figured out Oski. Can we not settle on one or the other?
Yeah, if the promoters don't care, I certainly don't give a fuck. So it's insane to have him out. It was like reminiscent of 1992 Bob Backlund. I'm coming back to the WWF, and yeah. So it's just I don't know. I get what they were trying to do here, and they wanted to show off that Rasslin's real. Look at that injury, but this wasn't it. I mean, clearly he didn't have time to prepare, right? Nobody gave him advice. You should be mad. You should be hot. This was his opportunity, and didn't really work out so well.
Yeah, somebody from the back just said, hey, go out there and let him see what happened. And then he got asked a question and didn't know how to respond. Like,
clearly.
Oh, I wasn't counting on talking here. Pretty peeved about this, Lance. And
I don't know that Tux knew it was coming either. He doesn't even respond. He just shrugs it like, so this big guy comes out and says, I'm coming for you. If I have to go all the way to Hollywood, even though you're 2 feet in front of me, I'm going to get my revenge. And then he walks away, and Tux Newman just kind of shrugs it off, like just horse shit, and talks about bringing in Bruiser Brody. Like, let's just change the subject, Lance. Fuck that guy. And so we go to a VTR. We see some clips from the AWA. Bruiser Brody taking on Brian Costello and Ben Patrick in a handicap match. We also see Brody versus Steve Olszewski. Shout out to the old Georgia 81 project there. Highlights from that matchup. And even Brody attacking referee Marty Miller and mauling poor Rick Gantner. So if you've never seen Bruiser Brody before, you guys have an idea of how crazy, how wild, how big and bad he is after this video footage.
Yep, that was a pretty good look at Bruiser Brody to kind of get what he's all about. And I'm sure people that were starting to figure things out were like, yeah, they're probably going to set him loose on the Batten Twins next week, I guess. That's all that's left to do, man, apparently.
Gonna finally put the final nail in that coffin, put them out of their misery, send them down to Central States or something. So we go back to Tux after the video footage, who states that he is now in negotiations with Bruiser Brody's manager, Sheik Adnan, up at the AWA, and he's going to have Brody here soon. So last week, he already claimed he had Bruiser Brody. This week, he's in negotiations, kind of working in reverse here. As Dr. D, David Schultz, going to interrupt this interview, he says he's had Tux calling him every day, promising him big matches and big opponents. And now he claims Brody is the world's greatest wrestler? Wait a minute, Dr. D is the world's greatest wrestler. Uh-oh. Schultz threatening to slap Tux down. It's either Dr. D or Brody. Can't be both. And telling Tux, don't you ever do this to me again, boy. Scary thought there from Dr. D. His own guy is more intimidating to Tux than Steve Constance or Tim Ashley or whoever that was.
Well, that's fair. I mean, David Schultz in a straitjacket's more threatening than, freaking Constance or Ashley with an Uzi in their hand. So. True,
but I mean, if you're managing the guy, technically you shouldn't be as worried. Is Tux going to apologize to Schultz here, and the two men walk off to have a conversation? So apparently, Tux now managing Dr. D, David Schultz, or at least has interest in managing him. And so Dr. D has an issue with Tux also managing Bruiser Brody. Apparently there's issues in the past between those two, which we will discuss before this episode is over.
The Tux man clearly watched 2020. What can you say?
Yes, indeed. And Dave Brown going to run down some of the upcoming events in some of the smaller towns, including tomorrow night, Jackson, Tennessee, when the PYT take on the duo of Tojo Yamamoto and Jerry Jarrett are coming out of retirement. Not for one night, guys, but apparently, at least the way they're going to sell it, full-time returning to the ring, because that's just how lopsided the babyface side is right now.
Yeah, I mean, apparently they finally saw what we saw. Like, we don't have any baby faces. Like, what are we going to do? And Jerry Jarrett's like, all right, I'll do it. Let me call
I'll get
Tojo.
Back in there. I can double pay myself that way. Okay. And Tojo, of course, working a lot of the B shows. So he's getting the call back to the A shows here. And so we got the legendary team of Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto reforming. Jerry cutting a promo here with Tojo, quick VTR. And Jerry stating that it's been almost 4 years since they've teamed up, but they're back together again. Pretty basic promo. And again, just a light roster, and they're going to fill it out with, going to try to use some nostalgia, if you will.
Well, as the kids say, we all remember that banger between Tojo and Plowboy a couple of months ago, so it should be great.
Yeah, lots of karate chops, judo chops. And there you go. Going to chop up some chicken salad.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Rasslin Podcast, where we Talk the Territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Rasslin Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Rasslin Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Rasslin Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
It's about time, guys. We've been waiting for like a freaking hour, and finally, Jerry Lawler going to show up to the studio, and boy, is he ready to cut himself a promo as he references the old 2020 episode as David Schultz slapping down Stossel and talking about Schultz stepping in the ring and maybe scoring wins over the likes of people like Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant. But Lawler points out that I beat Hogan, I beat Andre, Orndorff, Ventura. They've all come through Memphis, and Jerry Lawler says he beat every one of them. As he goes on, and you talked about this a little earlier, the King states the WWF, they recently had a TV actor named Mr. T training to wrestle for 2 weeks and then competing against their top guys, talking about WrestleMania. So Lawler says that doesn't impress me much. The wrestler stepping in the ring with a actor here. And the last time Lawler wrestled a TV star, he put him in the hospital for 5 days, says Jerry, and gave him a cancer and killed him too.
Yeah, well, it's not. I mean, might as well throw that in there too. That's pretty impressive.
So apparently Jerry Lawler now hot not just at Randy Savage, but of course David Schultz for interfering in his title match last Monday night, and revenge on the mind of the King, dadgummit. Lawler agreeing with the Tuxman, stating that Bruiser Brody is indeed a big, rough, tough individual. He'd be glad to take Tux's money, come in here and wrestle against Jerry Lawler, would Brody. But Bruiser Brody was offered even more money by Jerry Lawler to come in here and be his tag team partner against Randy Savage and David Schultz. Bruiser Brody is Jerry Lawler's mystery partner.
which makes sense, but why even have the twist of having? I mean, is it just that we didn't have this idea
exactly
now? That makes no sense to have Tux come out the first week and he's signed Bruiser Brody, and then this week he's trying to get Bruiser Brody, and then now all of a sudden Lawler's said that's going to be his partner.
Somehow Brody turned on Tux faster than Siki. Siki didn't do it till he got to the studio. Brody did it, and he's not even going to be here for a couple more days.
Well, wise man, I suppose, but okay. Just another thing on this episode that just makes you scratch your head and go, what the hell are we doing?
You know, if we didn't have all these other booking flaws and issues, I wouldn't mind this one so much because Brody is a hired gun like an Abdullah or what have you, so I don't mind the babyface one-upping the heel by paying him a little more. It's also worked in reverse and down in the Mid-South. I forgot who it was who brought in the assassin, but I believe it was Ernie Ladd brought in the assassin to help him in his feud with Akbar and crew. And at the end of and before the match even started, the assassin turning on Ladd because he was offered more money by the heels. And it made sense. The assassin is a heel and he's a hired gun. And so I'm not against this story, but there's so many convoluted, nonsensical booking decisions right now that I guess I have a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, because it's clear that this wasn't planned. A booking decision plan. This was this is another half-cocked idea to go along with all the other nonsense we're doing. We just changed on the fly because we realized, oh shit, that doesn't make any sense to continue to stack the heel side. I mean, because who would you have brought in if you put Brody with Tux? Who's coming in for Lawler that could stand up to Brody, Dr. D, and Savage?
Right.
Siki.
Yeah, there you go. He could be making his return. You never know. Any time now. Sweet Daddy Siki just chomping at the bit to get back down there to Memphis, Tennessee. Because remember that month when Lawler came and worked for free for him up there to help the sick kids or something? I don't even remember what the backstory was there. But remember earlier, David Schultz taking issue with Tux Newman managing Bruiser Brody? Well, we find out why here. As Jerry Lawler claims, he heard it through the grapevine, that Dr. D, he doesn't like Brody because they teamed in Puerto Rico, and David Schultz turned on Brody and beat him with a 2x4. Lots of information there. In the parking lot. Beat him with a 2x4 in the parking lot. Then left the island. What a story. So talk about getting down to the details. It wasn't, just a board. It was a 2x4 to the back of the head. Tough guy.
I mean, yeah, we could have just said, hey, Dr. D double-crossed him in Puerto Rico, but we got really specific there on that story, more than it needed, as you said. As I was watching, I was like, Lawler, let's not go so deep with the details, but he did.
Oh, man. So apparently when Bruiser Brody heard Lawler was wrestling Schultz and Savage, he was more than happy to team with the King. So Lawler confirming it is Savage and Dr. D against the King and Bruiser Brody. Wow. What a match.
Yeah, I mean, amidst all the other not so great stuff we got happening in Memphis, I mean, like I said, regardless of how you feel about anything on the rest of the card, how do you not buy a ticket to this on Monday night?
No, yeah, I mean, the PYTs and the Fabs, if we get it, that can always be fun, but that main event sells it for me. Four of the biggest names in the history of wrestling, really, especially, Savage, obviously, Lawler, definitely anywhere, but really in Memphis, and then you got Bruiser Brody coming in, Wild Man, and Dr. D, well, I mean, yeah, a polarizing figure at the very least to say. And in Memphis, a pretty big name. He's known in this territory for certain, and he's coming right out of the heels of the WWF run, the big New York run. So Schultz is a big name, a good get for Memphis right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For, like you said, his history, his recent, shenanigans on national television. This is about as big a match as you could have put together in Memphis in 1985, I think.
Well, we heard from the King. We know his partner is Bruiser Brody, and now out comes Tux Newman, Randy Savage, and David Schultz to cut a promo. But it's not an irate Randy Savage, which is most of the time. Instead, a calm Macho Man says they're not crazy. They don't need to intimidate anyone because he's the Southern champion. Schultz says, of course, Jerry Lawler had to pay Bruiser Brody to team with him because nobody wants to team with the King because Lawler has a disease. Jerry Lawler has AIDS.
And you come out here and tell people that you had to pay more money to get Bruiser Brody. That's right. Because I found out something about you, Lawler. Nobody wants to be your tag team partner. because you've got a disease, boy. I've checked on you. You have a disease, and they call it AIDS. I have checked on it. Nobody wants that to do with you.
My God. he got AIDS, boy.
Jesus. Oh, wow. I knew it was coming, and it still shocks me.
The guy's wearing a fucking swastika on his chest, and I'm still marveling at the fact that he's outing Lawler's. You got AIDS. You got a disease. You got AIDS. Don't nobody want to team with you.
Oh, surely, the things that people have said about Lawler in more recent years, that must not have been a thing back then, because I feel like Dr. D would have been the type to have said that on TV. You know what I mean? He'd have been like, yeah, the reason he went to go help Siki, he misunderstood. He didn't know it was sick kids he was going to see. He just heard there was kids, and we know what he likes about.
He's going to give them kids all AIDS. Oh, man. I didn't know what he was going with when he's like, Lawler has a disease. And I didn't think he was going to elaborate, but I was like, I wonder what the hell he's referring to. And then he just straight up said, Lawler has AIDS. Oh, come on now. What the hell are we doing here? My God.
What in the actual fuck are you? Saturday morning cartoons just
wrap it up.
Minutes ago, Schultz.
Wrap it up. We're done. This shit's over. I'm done. As Dr. D admits that, yeah, I did hit Brody with a stick. It wasn't a 2x4. You see, it was a stick because Brody attacked him because Dr. D was sleeping with Brody's woman. I don't know if Barbara Goodis knows anything about that, but Dr. D, I attacked Brody because he attacked me first because I was fucking his woman.
Wow.
And this gets good. So, oh wait, it's already good. Schultz then says he might be even sleeping with Jerry Lawler's woman next. Why would you want to do that if he has AIDS?
Exactly. Good Lord, you freak. What? You just contradict. You contradicted yourself in your own promo, or I guess you're really getting yourself over as absolutely nuts.
Well,
oh my God.
If anybody was nuts, I mean, and he's standing next to Randy Savage, mind you, who comes off calm compared to Dr. D here.
I wish there'd been a mic on Savage when he said that, when I'm sure he was like, because Lawler's got AIDS, or Savage was like, Jesus.
What were all the things in New York they wouldn't let me do? Let's see. Oh, yeah, put a Nazi sign on my shirt and accuse people of having it. Hulk Hogan has AIDS, boy. What a promo that would have been going to the Garden.
They didn't even air my promo that I said Hogan had AIDS.
I'm standing in the back here with Dr. D. David Schultz. Would you like to say anything about your upcoming opponent, Hulk Hogan? Yeah, he's got AIDS, boy.
He's got AIDS. Oh, my what?
Oh, my what?
Will you stop? Gorilla on the damn back. They cut back to Gorilla. Will you stop?
This has been Special Report.
And Heenan's like, I knew something was off about Hogan.
Oh, man. A little bit. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to continue on with the program. That was fun. Dr. D has been nothing but entertainment value since he returned here to Memphis. We go back to the ring, though. Going to see some action one-on-one. Kareem Muhammad out here, the big Zambui Express, taking on David Johnson. And, hey, David back. Haven't seen him since he was dragged out of the studio by his ankles by the Macho Man Randy Savage. Finally got his name put back on his tights here.
He vowed not to return until his name was back on his tights.
Well, his mom had to sew it back on there, and away we go. And something weird about watching Kareem Muhammad come to ringside, billed from Africa, mind you, walking past David Schultz with a swastika on his shirt. You know, a lot of times in Memphis, we got the promo guys walking away as the next match is coming into the ring, but just something really weird about watching Kareem Muhammad walk past Dr. D in this situation.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm sure Coco wasn't a big fan of it either. Oh, no.
Oh, no, Frankie, what do you think? Exactly. I don't feel good. Coco.
Talks, I'm not tagging with that cracker. Bring Billy Travis out here.
There you go. Maybe that's what happened. That's how Billy got the push, man. Coco and Norvell were like, we ain't teaming with Dr. D. As Kareem Muhammad out here, though, poor David Johnson back, maybe just going to be a one-off in the ring with the big 400-plus pounder. Complete mauling, as you might suspect, and a running off the ropes. I use that term loosely, running, but a falling headbutt by Kareem Muhammad going to pick up the quick win, 122.
Yes, he puts the falling headbutt. It looks like he tripped when he does it, but it's effective nonetheless.
Well, it's not as scary as watching him come down with the splash. At least it's just his head in that instance. And we'll have to see if David Johnson sticks around. What a way to return. As we have one more match this week on the program, Expiration of Time. 6-man tag team action. Jerry Lawler teaming with the Fabulous Ones. That's the entire babyface roster right now. Taking on Billy Travis, who was just turned heel and added, well, maybe not a PYT, but he was put into a position to be in the mid-card at the very least, I'd have to say. And here he is in the Expiration of Time, teaming with a couple of Indianapolis' own J.R. Hogg and Bobby Colt, the international playboy, going to make the drive back down here. You know they rode together.
Of course, in our Expiration of Time, guys you didn't think were still around match here. I thought J.R. Hogg and Bobby Colt had completely exited stage left, but here they are, teaming with Billy Travis.
Can you imagine how badly you need the work to make that drive down here and assume maybe you're going to get paid $25?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard times, baby.
It's hard time, baby, if you will. Match gets going. Billy Travis in here. Some great heel selling. Nice bumping around the ring. Then the babyface is just going to control all three of their opponents, taking turns with the shots in the ring. Lawler, though, going to end it with that middle rope fist drop on J.R. Hogg. So Bobby Colt escapes the pinfall here as the babyfaces go over. One fall match. Expiration of Time. We get the pinfall. As Tom Renesto promised, we would see a winner. Match goes 3 minutes and 27 seconds.
Well, yeah, we did get a pinfall, but he said that they learned that everybody wants to see 2 out of 3 falls matches. So the match that usually was the only time we ever saw multiple falls, the Expiration of Time just went 1 fall. But
that's right. Okay. That's right. And that's going to wrap up this week's Memphis TV. So we move on later to some house shows, including at the Nashville Fairgrounds. On that card, it was Lanny Poffo taking on Jerry Oski. I noticed Lanny was missing in action on the TV. We saw Randy Savage, but no Lanny. Kind of curious. Also, David Haskins scheduled to take on David Schultz. Tracy Smothers battling the Angel. Frank Morrell coming around. Jerry Lawler versus the Macho Man Randy Savage, and the PYTs supposedly defending their titles against the Fabulous Ones. Now, Coco Ware's injury, I don't know if it was legit or not, but I know he's going to miss some dates here upcoming. But that was the Nashville Fairgrounds card. Over on the other side, the B show, we are in Hohenwald, Tennessee. And I got to be honest with you. When I heard Dave Brown say the name of this city several weeks ago, I swear to God, I was like, there's no way he's saying Hole in the Wall, Tennessee. How do you name a town Hohenwald?
And it's got to be that somebody with a speech impediment was trying to name it Hohenwald, and the person's like, what are you saying? Hohenwald. What are you saying? Hohenwald. I think you said Hohenwald, and then that's, how do you spell that? I don't know, just take your best guess, and this is what we got here.
Well, it took me weeks to figure out what the name of this town was, but here it is, Hohenwald, Tennessee, at the middle school. They don't even have a high school in Hohenwald because nobody gets that far into their education. Is also on the card is Constance and Ashley, the Batten Twins, Tojo Yamamoto, and they're all going to be part of a big battle royal, probably an 8-man battle royal or something like there in the Hohenwald.
Oh, the excitement. I'm guessing Tojo probably won it so he didn't have to take the bump to the floor.
No way, boy-san. Very good. Tojo Yamamoto going to go over. That's our prediction anyway. That's what happened. We're going to just tell everybody that's what happened because it probably did. I don't think Jerry Jarrett came out of retirement for that one, though.
No, Jerry Jarrett's not coming to Hohenwald. You can bet on that.
Well, we fast forward to the following day, another edition of the Jerry Lawler Show on May the 5th, and sit-down guests are Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto in the studio here, talking to the King. They're going to be returning as a team, and it starts tonight in Jackson, Tennessee. Jerry Jarrett talks about being retiring on top to become a promoter, as Lawler going to start making fun of Tojo's hats. He doesn't like his little miniature hats. And the King going to turn that into a 2 or 3 minute spiel for some reason here. As Jerry Jarrett was very engaging in this interview, while it looked like Tojo Yamamoto was literally falling asleep at one point. Jarrett had to tell Tojo that Lawler was talking to him during the interview at one time. So, hey, he's talking to you, Tojo. I don't know where Tojo was. I don't think he was mentally there.
Well, I guess that explains why Lawler had to go on his hat tangent there to fill some time.
Well, Yamamoto going to compare Jerry Jarrett's retirement to him, the equivalent to when Sam Bass died for Jerry Lawler. So, when Jerry Jarrett retired, it was just as bad as when Sam Bass died, Jerry Lawler. Tojo really fired up. He feels like a new man, a new Tojo, now that Jerry Jarrett's coming out of retirement.
What a weird comparison.
You're telling
Jerry
me.
Jarrett retiring to be a full-time promoter, just like when Sam Bass died. Boy, that's not saying much for the promoter's job, but then again, maybe he's not too far off.
Well, Tojo hurt just as bad as if it was a death, I suppose. Jerry Jarrett says starting today, he has no control over the promotion for a full year. We'll see how long that sticks because he is actively returning to the ring. He has turned it over a blind trust to Eddie Marlin. So Jerry Jarrett claiming because I'm stepping in the ring, whether I retire again tomorrow or in 3 weeks or in 6 months, I have no control over the territory for the next full year legally because I'm an active wrestler. And Eddie Marlin now basically the makeshift promoter.
Sure, Jerry. That's like anybody cared. I mean, okay.
At least he's explaining, you can't fool us. We know you're the promoter, Jerry. Jerry says, well, I'm not anymore because I'm stepping in the ring. So I had to legally turn it over for the time being for at least a full year. Eddie Marlin going to be in control. And as they stand up to leave, Jerry Jarrett wants to know, where's his TGI Friday gift certificate? And I had to pop for that. But use it quick, Jerry, because they have filed bankruptcy.
That is funny. Maybe this was Jerry Jarrett's way of saying, hey, I'm not the promoter. I didn't hire this dipshit matchmaker we got right now. So blame Eddie Marlin.
There you, well, they were coming out together quite often there on that episode of TV. So that very well
they were joined at the hip.
Could be. Hopefully Jerry Jarrett got that TGI Friday gift card. As up next, we get a VTR from Tux Newman and the PYTs talking about using the straps for everyone who gets in their way. So the promo doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You guys can go check out the Lawler show if you can find it. But Jerry going to shit on their promo. It's not a live interview. So Jerry Lawler going to shit on it. Says they're pretty good wrestlers, but they couldn't say grits with their mouthful. So with a mouthful. So Jerry Lawler basically mocking the fact that he couldn't understand the words that were coming out of their mouth.
Oh, Jerry. I guess that's nicer than what Lawler has said in the past about certain people. So.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it. He says there is no viewer mail this week. Are we to believe that nobody has sent in a single piece of mail in the past however many weeks? I mean, I was picturing mail, like bags of mail, and according to Jerry, there's none. So instead, we're going to be treated to a video clip of the Battle of the DJs. Steve Connolly versus, well, not Ron Olson. Back to that Jamie Ray Kimball fund, which I still can't find any information on. Olson, of course, replaced by Bill Dotson here in the clip. Reggie White in there as the referee, which was kind of cool. But apparently, at some point, they've added another stipulation to this match because that's what it needed. Ron Olson can't wrestle in the ring, but rather his beard is now on the line versus Steve Connolly's hair. So it is, in fact, hair versus beard walking into this matchup.
The stakes couldn't be higher, Ray.
Well, let's see what happens here in the closing moments. Comedy spot with Dotson running the ropes, doing a little crisscross as Connolly stops and just watches Dotson run back and forth. Then Connolly with a drop kick and a pair of body slams as Lance Russell laughing at the chaos on the commentary. And these guys just bruising themselves. Nasty falls. And I don't mean terrible bumps, like as far as doing moves. I mean, just the way they're landing. And I couldn't help but notice Lips was ringside as promised. So, that made my day. As Steve Connolly manages to get the win with a sunset flip, sort of. And the match goes, according to Lance, 5 minutes and 22 seconds. And of course, Ron Olson gets his beard shaved.
Hey, they actually carried out a stipulation. That's pretty good.
Well, it was DJs, not wrestlers, so we have that. And also, I mean, after all the replacements and whatnot, I guess they came up with something, and the old tried and true deal. Yeah, you're injured, but let's get you out there. Let's let the fans see you're here. And Ron Olson did show up and did have his beard shaved, broken arm and all.
Well, he should be commended for that.
Amen. And the Battle of the DJs is now over, and hopefully we never have to speak of it again unless Lips shows up on TV. As this Tuesday, we learn at the Daisy Theater. Hey, there's some Memphis Power Pro for you, Randy. Some pro boxing coming to the Daisy Theater this Tuesday on Beale Street, and seats a whole 650 people, says promoter Mike Glenn. So way to draw him in. And the returning Knox Brown. Remember, guys, at the beginning of the year, Lawler interviewed a couple of boxing gentlemen. Knox Brown was one of those men, so they did return to the TV program, unbelievably. And he's going to be taking on a guy by the name of Anthony Campbell, whoever that is. So come on down to the Daisy.
All right, getting us some boxing promotion on here. So damn them people for not writing in any viewer mail. We had to see longer clips of the freaking DJ match and talk about boxing.
Well, to be fair, the boxing interview, I believe it lasted a whole 90 seconds, so they had that going for it anyway. As we move on later in the day, May the 5th, Jackson, Tennessee, the original lineup. Got some sound bites queued up, guys, here. It was to feature Randy Savage defending the Southern title against the King, and the PYTs to take on the Fabulous Ones. But as you'll find out as the sound bites go on, they changed that match to a 6-man tag. Instead, it's going to be Jerry Lawler teaming with the Fabs to take on the Macho Man Randy Savage, Dr. D. David Schultz, and of course, Lanny Poffo, the third wheel of that team. Also, the PYTs now slated to take on Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto. Here are some interviews leading up to the card.
But want to tell you about Championship Wrestling when we're back at the Jackson Coliseum. The date on Sunday, May the 5th at 8 o'clock. A super card already signed. Jerry the King Lawler is back. He's going against Randy Savage and the Fabs against the Pretty Young Things.
Be neat when you come out here. Be neat. Let me tell you, you people in Jackson, let me tell you something. The Fabulous Ones, your days are numbered. Count the days. It comes very soon. Jackson, Tennessee will be your downfall. These men will finish you.
You see, when we first got to Jackson, Tennessee, we made our debut with the Batten brothers, and we destroyed those Batten brothers. But now, we want the Fabulous Ones, and we're going to destroy you in Jackson.
And you got them! But you know something? I'm worried. I'm worried.
You better be.
Because I intended to get rid of one Jerry Lawler. It didn't work. Yeah. But there's a second time. And this time, I underestimated Lawler. His intelligence surpasses mine to a degree. But that only makes me work harder. And that I have done. I have a plan. And I have told it to Macho Man. And in Jackson, Tennessee, we will have that ambulance in front of that building. And Lawler, you will go out on it again! I promise you!
Randy Savage.
All right, we got a plan, and you got a plan, but that really doesn't matter because I see something real bad happening, and I don't think that there's anything that can stop it because I think it's gone too far. King Jerry Lawler coming back running right straight into a wall again.
More action in the ring on Championship Wrestling, but we wanted to take time out and call in the King, Jerry Lawler. Hadn't seen him in a couple of weeks, been worried about you, King.
Well, Randy, I want to thank you for that. I want to thank all the wrestling fans in the area out there for their concern also. Received a lot of calls, a lot of cards and letters from the great people in the area there, and everybody seemed to be concerned. I can imagine, though, that there were a couple of people that weren't too concerned. They weren't very worried, but I want to tell them right now that they better get concerned. And I'm talking about Savage, and I'm talking about Tux Newman. Now, I'm sure, Randy, that they thought that King's career were over. I'm sure that they were running around telling everybody the King is dead, that Randy Savage is the new king of professional wrestling. Well, let me tell you something, Savage. You're going to find out real soon, brother, that there's a lot of life left in this King right here. There is no possible way that I'm going to let the last appearance for this King in a wrestling ring to be what took place when I was carried out in an ambulance. You know, when I got to that hospital, I had one of the ambulance drivers come up to me and say, you know, champ, you can't keep subjecting your body to this kind of abuse week in and week out. Now, you've been wrestling a long time, and you've had a great career. Maybe this is a good opportunity to just hang up the tights and take life easy for a while. And I got to tell you, Randy, I contemplated that. But then I got to thinking, is that the way for the king to go out? Is that the last appearance that I'm going to make in a wrestling ring? Is the last time the fans see me is I'm going to be flat on my back on a stretcher being put in the back of an ambulance? No way. There is no way that I'm going to let Tux Newman and Randy Savage have that kind of pleasure. I'm coming back, Savage. I want you to know that, brother, and I'm coming back strong. I took a little extra time. I felt like I was ready maybe last week, a week before last, but I went to the doctors and he says, you better take a little extra time. Make sure it's completely well. Well, I want you to know, Savage, the neck is completely healed, brother. So you come down to that arena and you shoot your best shot because you're going to be in there with a king that's 100%, brother. And when I get you in that ring, if anybody sees an ambulance, if anybody sees the inside of a hospital, it's going to be you, Savage, you and Tux Newman. Because I got a score to settle with you. You're going to pay the price, brother, next time I get you in the ring. I promise you that.
Jerry, one quick thing that really worries me. You've gone against a lot of crazy people, but this Savage is absolutely a lunatic. He went after Japanese photographer Jimmy Suzuki. He's done everything since you've been gone.
I don't even have to sit, and I don't have to worry about what kind of man I'm dealing with. I don't have to worry about if he's playing with a full deck or not. I hope that Savage comes in there, and I want him to pull every trick he's got in his book. I want him to do everything that he could possibly do to me, because when it's all over, when the dust is settled, I don't want there to be any excuses. I don't want Tux Newman to be able to go and say, well, this happened or that happened, or we had this reason that we lost, or we have some sort of an excuse. Come on out there, Savage. You be as wild and you be as crazy as you want to, brother. Because I heard Tommy Rich say one time, other people can get crazy too. And when I get you in that ring, brother, it's going to be two crazy people. And I believe I can get just a little crazier than Randy Savage ever dreamed of being. And I promise you this, Savage, you got a price to pay, brother, and you're going to pay it.
The battle is coming up. Right now, let's take a look at Lawler and Savage. Championship wrestling action coming your way. We're back in Jackson on Sunday night, May the 5th at 8 o'clock. The fabulous ones will be going against the pretty young things.
You know, those guys are very good. They're very schooled, very educated in the ways of jumping into a ring when a guy's got his back turned and putting the boots to him, you know. And that's what exactly happened in Jackson last time. And Steve and I were going to pull them off the road down I-40. We got behind their 62 Chevy, and all that blue smoke was bellowing out. We saw the wine bottles going out the window, and we were going to pull them over and beat them up right there. But the smoke was too bad. So, guys, next time in Jackson, it's going to be your day, guys. You won't be jumping from behind. It's going to be face-to-face, nose-to-nose, eyeball-to-eyeball, and you guys are going to go down. I love it.
All right. I want to call in Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler was not able to be in Jackson, unfortunately. Last time, he'll be there the 5th.
It's been quite a while since I've been able to be in Jackson, Tennessee, and I'm looking forward to being back there. Before I talk about Randy Savage, I want to say thank you to all the fans in the Jackson area that sent the cards and the calls and the letters and all of this kind of concern that they showed while I was out. Well, I tell you one thing, I am sure that Randy Savage and I'm sure that Tux Newman thought that I was out, not just for a little while, I'm sure they thought I was out permanently, Randy. They went around saying the king is dead. Well, let me tell you something, Newman, and let me tell you, Savage, there's a lot of life left in the king, brother, and in Jackson on the 5th, you're going to find out just how much. You can talk about ambulances, you can talk about hospitals, all you want to. From now on, brother, if anybody sees the inside of an ambulance, if anybody sees the inside of one of those emergency rooms, it's going to be you, Savage. I'm coming back to Jackson for two things, boy. That's to take my title back, and that's to see you carried out in an ambulance.
Looking forward to Jackson, May the 5th. See you there.
All right, so Lawler and Savage on paper, hey, do not replace that, right? Like, I want to see that matchup, Southern title on the line, but man, how can you argue the Fabs and Lawler all teaming up, and on the other side, you get the likes of the Macho Man and Schultz in there.
Yeah, that's an interesting tag match, but boy, you take Macho, Schultz, and Poffo, and that old Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the others, has never been truer.
Steers and queers, boy, and you ain't got no horns.
That boy does what?
You got the AIDS too, boy.
You just prance around and call yourself the genius or something.
There you go.
Puffa's like,
I may use that someday.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, put that in a poem and smoke it, bitch. So you might ask yourselves, well, the PYT were originally supposed to wrestle the Fabs. Who could replace them but Tojo and Jerry Jarrett right out of the gate? Jarrett's first match back in Rasslin, and he's already getting tag team title matches.
Could it be that nobody else wanted to wrestle the PYTs at this point, and they're like, well, he won't drop Jerry on his head, and he won't get Tojo off his feet, so that's a pretty safe bet.
Well, I had wondered if Coco's injury was legit, but apparently not, and I believe Jackson, it's only, a half hour out of Memphis or so, but I'm
it's not far.
Sure what we're doing here. It can't be a bicycle issue as far as the tapes are concerned then, but Coco does in fact wrestle here, as it is the PYT taking on Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto, and there's going to be a very brief clip of the finish coming up on a future episode of TV, and I went ahead and watched the clip here just to kind of get an idea of how things played out. So the finish of the matchup, Jarrett and Tojo challenging the PYT for the Southern Tag Team titles. The finish sees a hot tag, Jerry Jarrett out to Tojo Yamamoto, who is a house of fire, if you will, as Tux Newman going to jump in the ring, and Coco using the distraction to clock Tojo with a shoe, and the PYT's going to steal the win here.
Wow. Okay. I don't hate that.
Post-match, Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto back in the ring, fighting back when Tux Newman re-enters the ring, as well as Billy Travis, and they bring with them straps, handing them to the PYTs as the entire heel unit beat down on Tojo and Jerry Jarrett. So Billy Travis seems to be working his way in to the PYT Express.
Their pale white brother from another mother.
There you go. I should note, too, the referee for this matchup, Tom Branch, who is the son of Booker Tom Renesto. In fact, Tom Branch has wrestled as Tom Branch and Tom Renesto Jr. in the past. And I believe they gave him one match here on one of the results we covered on one of these house shows a week or two ago. And even Renesto realizing that his son, nothing more than a lowly referee.
Get that kid a referee shirt.
Sorry, son. All right, we move on to the Mid-South Coliseum, May the 6th. We talk about the big main event and how many people it was going to bring out in attendance, 3,500 fans, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but I don't know. I expected more with a match like that on top, but as you guys will see, one match may not always sell the card.
No, but by God, in 1993 that we're watching now, 3,500 is calls for an absolute parade and celebration, and I mean that's the kind of crowd we're hoping for when Bret Hart comes to town for a cage match. So what a difference, a few years made.
No kidding, man. Yeah, it's insane. 3,500 fans here to witness the main event, and probably none of these other matches, but we're going to go over them anyway. It was originally supposed to be Billy Travis taking on Tracy Smothers, but we're going to use Billy later in the card, as we'll see. So instead, filling in for Travis, it's Jerry Bryant back. Jerry Lawler making that call. Hey, Bryant, I got you a job this week. Jerry Bryant going over on Tracy Smothers, so nobody does it like a thug. Tracy Smothers doing a job to Jerry Bryant there. And then a couple of matches that actually are going to make air on the Jackson, Tennessee, the Memphis Arena results, the matches shown on TV. Of all of the matches from this card, both the Constance and Ashley matches are going to make TV, unfortunately, and that's it.
Wow, what a choice that is.
You got that right. As Steve Constance, who is just awful is not the word here, going to score a victory over the exotic Adrian Street, who makes a random return. Miss Linda in his corner. But Constance going over in the second match of the card by disqualification, in what should be a throwaway match against the guy who is not even part of the territory anymore. And even Adrian Street comes in and says, "Oh, I'm not jobbing to him.
He's dreadful."
So again, we were promised no DQ. Second match of the card, we get our first DQ of the night. Made absolutely no sense either. Here's the finish. Listen to this, Gene. Miss Linda going to trip up Steve Constance, and Adrian Street going to go for the cover. The referee drops down. 1, 2. Then the referee randomly gets up and calls for the bell, raising Constance's hand in victory by disqualification due to Miss Linda's interference. The match, every bit of it, on TV, 7 minutes and 47 seconds.
I mean, that is an absurd finish, and you would hate that it even happened in front of a live audience, but then you go and air it on TV? Like, it's crazy, because me and my buddy Bob were reviewing a Texas All-Star show a while back for YouTube, And there was a match similar to this where a guy hits somebody with a chair, and you see you're like, the referee saw that, but I guess he wasn't supposed to see it. So then the heel makes the cover, and the ref goes over 1, 2, stops the count, then calls for the disqualification for him hitting with the chair. And same as here, you're like, why the hell would you count 2 if you saw it and you were already going to disqualify him? Like, that's ridiculous. But so, the fact that they aired this, it probably wasn't a mistake by the referee. This was just a stupid finish that Renesto probably called.
Yeah, I'm not really sure or maybe nobody pays attention to the production, whoever is in charge of putting these matches on the show. I have no idea what the deal is, but you have to imagine, I thought maybe, Constance isn't bright enough to come up with this, but I'm imagining Adrian Strait is not going to do the job. So he's shouting up to the ref, disqualification, ref, like call the damn DQ. This, she got involved. I don't really know. Yeah. I just know that it didn't make any sense. The referee, no. I don't remember if he saw the trip from Linda, but he goes down and makes the count 1, 2, and then he just stands up and calls for the bell. So I don't know. I do know much more definitive win here. Kareem Muhammad going over on Tim Ashley with that diving headbutt, if you will. And that match somehow also goes 7 minutes and 4 seconds.
I've never been more on the side of Kareem Muhammad in a match ever. I hope it was 7 minutes of agony for Tim Ashley.
7 minutes of agony for me, I'll tell you that much. Kareem Muhammad going over, though, by pinfall. Steve Constance, not so much. Jerry Oski out here scoring a win over Lanny Poffo. More on Jerry Oski in a minute. Stay tuned. We're going to hear that name again, guys. But right now, no disqualification matchup, and Oski finally getting that ever-important pinfall victory over Leaping Lanny.
Yay, our hero.
So even though we saw Coco wear wrestling in Jackson the night before, he's out here selling the shoulder injury from TV a couple days back. It's instead Billy Travis going to be filling in for Coco here, teaming with Norvell Austin. Unless the story they're telling is Coco's faking an injury in order to keep the titles from being on the line. I don't really know what they're doing here, unless they're just trying to give Billy Travis the experience or really push him as a member of this group. I don't know what they're going for, but I do know Norvell Austin and Billy Travis, of all people, are going to score a win over the Fabulous One.
Why would you sub in Travis for the injured Coco to still have them go over? I mean, that's a perfect excuse to have the Fabs win. They pin Travis, and Coco's like, so what? You pinned Travis, you didn't pin. I mean,
right.
God damn, that makes no sense.
Yeah, the titles are on the line.
Wow.
It's not going to hurt anybody. We've seen Billy Travis do a job before, but easily the biggest win in Travis's entire career at this point.
No doubt about it. I mean, if you're trying to build Billy Travis and try to make him in one match, then kudos. I mean, I guess it helps with that, but God, that makes no sense.
Well, as promised, definitive wins here, especially in the main event. You got to have a definitive win here in the Memphis territory moving forward, and thus the main event sees Jerry Lawler and Bruiser Brody battle Randy Savage and David Schultz to a double countout. Naturally.
So Renesto goes up to each one separately, I'm sure, like, hey, I'm going to need you to take the pin tonight. No, I'm not doing that. And he just goes down the line, and finally when everybody refuses, like, well, I guess it's a double countout.
And Jarrett standing, hey, I'm not the promoter anymore. All right, guys, we move on to the following day. Very important day in Memphis wrestling history, I'll have you know. Louisville Gardens on May the 7th, Tuesday, of course. The original card was supposed to see the likes of Jerry Lawler battling Randy Savage for the Southern title, while Dr. D. David Schultz battled Tim Ashley. But Tim Ashley is relieved because that's no longer the case. Now, these aren't complete results, but these are the main matches on the show. Kareem Muhammad over Tracy Smothers, and then we get into the good stuff. It's the PYTs defeating the Fabulous Ones. Wow, Stan and Steve doing some jobs lately. I'm kind of shocked. And Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto scoring a win over Billy Travis and the Spoiler. So it looks like Frank Morrell's lurking around a little bit. We saw him over the weekend. He's here on Tuesday in Louisville. And then we go into the double main event. Jerry Lawler coming out looking for revenge against Dr. D, who cost him here too in the Louisville Gardens. We saw the highlight. The clip is out there. Schultz came out just like he did in the Mid-South Coliseum and attacked Lawler during his title match with Randy Savage. And now Lawler coming back for revenge, and because we're promised definitive finishes, it's a double DQ.
I mean, why would you even bother saying that shit just to immediately go back on it on every show since?
Maybe they must think everybody would forget all about it when we get into the real main event of the card, the Southern champion Randy Savage defending his title against Jerry Oski. And now everyone out there, they're sitting here, they're like, well, okay, what's the big deal with this? Because believe it or not, on May the 7th, 1985, Jerry Oski pinned the Macho Man Randy Savage to capture the Southern Heavyweight title. Check the date, guys. This is not April 1st. Not April Fool's Day. I shit you not. A match that goes 31 minutes long. Jerry Oski going to counter a pile driver, hit the backdrop, and then a little back and forth action. Going to see Savage up to the middle rope to hit that diving elbow, but only scoring a 2 count. Maybe because he came off the middle rope. I don't know. Savage with that patented knee drop, but Oski manages to get his foot on the rope. But Savage thinks he scored the win. Meanwhile, Oski from behind, reverse rolling cradle, gets the 1, 2, 3. Believe it or not, 18 minutes of this match is out there right now on YouTube.
Wow. So put it on the record books, folks. Jerry Allen beat Randy Savage
there you go.
For a title.
And I'm sure he paid for it later in the WWF.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when you beat me, huh? Not so much here. But yeah, it's basically out of nowhere, but it's kind of curious. They did not do this in the Mid-South Coliseum. They did it in the Louisville Gardens, but Jerry Oski random. I really don't know the story behind this. Why Oski was randomly given this, a fluke win, anything can happen. It certainly elevates Oski to a degree, obviously. He pinned the Macho Man. But at the same time, there was no real push to this. I mean, he just now barely beat Lanny Poffo on Monday night, and he beat a jobber with a back suplex on Saturday, so there's no real big push walking into this thing.
No, and the only link besides the fact he's been wrestling Savage's brother is just that offhand comment he made on the Jerry Lawler show about one day I want to be Southern champion, which really seemed like more of a one day he's probably going to turn on Lawler comment than
right.
I'll end up beating Randy Savage in a strange one-off house show match.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes, now beginning May the 7th, Jerry Oski is your brand new Southern Heavyweight Champion. As we move on to the following day, Wednesday in Evansville, Indiana, May the 8th. Right now, we're going to go off to some promos as Jerry Lawler scheduled to take on Dr. D. David Schultz, but that's not Lance Russell conducting those interviews. That's not even Randy Hales. Instead, we get to listen to Tom Renesto interview Dr. D and the King.
Oh. Evansville wrestling fans, on Wednesday night, May the 8th, a great main event. I'm going to tell you about the rest of the card a little bit later, but let me tell you about the main event. King Jerry Lawler against Dr. D. David Schultz. We have some very interesting comments from the King Jerry Lawler.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you having me out here and giving me an opportunity to kind of tell my side of the story, what took place last week down at the Evansville Coliseum. Some of the wrestling fans may not have been on hand, but they might already know that I had a Southern Heavyweight title match going against Randy Savage. Not just a 1-fall match, but a 2 out of 3 fall match. And I had already won my fall, and we were in the 3rd and deciding fall, and I had the man beat. He was all ready just to be put away. And what happens just before I can get a count of 3? David Schultz, Dr. D, wants to stick his nose in my business. He jumps me from behind, saves Randy Savage and the title. And now I understand that Randy Savage has told you and the rest of the promoters that he's not going to give me a return match for the belt for at least 30 days. Is that right?
Very true, yes.
Well, that's fine. Because Randy Savage, I want to put you on the back burner just for a little bit because I got some more pressing business at hand. Dr. D, David Schultz. Boy, he's made quite a name for himself lately, hasn't he, Tom? He's real impressive when it comes to slapping around a 130-pound reporter on a show like 2020. And he's gone up to New York, the Big Apple, where everybody says they got the meanest, toughest wrestlers. He's beat the Andre the Giants and the Hulk Hogans, the Rocky Johnsons, and the Barry Windhams. Well, I say big deal, David Schultz. You're back here in Evansville, Indiana right now, brother. That's my backyard. And I'm going to show you that you don't come in my backyard and try to play the games by my rules. I'm going to show you, David Schultz, that we got a person down here they call the King. It's not a name that I picked up. It's a name that I earned. It's a name that the people gave me, and I'm going to show you how I earned it. I'm going to get you in the ring next week in Evansville, Indiana, and I'm going to beat you like the dog that you are.
There's a big main event in Evansville on Wednesday, May the 8th. The King, Jerry Lawler, will be taking on Dr. D, David Schultz, for the Southern Heavyweight Championship. Jerry Oski being going up against Randy Savage. An 8-man pole strap tag team match in which 2 big straps will be placed atop of a 10-foot pole. The Batten brothers will be in that one. Steve, Constance, and Tim Ashley, the PYT Express, and Adrian Street and Lanny Poffo. They all promised to give the PYT Express the beating of their lives. And here we have Jerry Lawler once again.
Tom, it's going to be a super card coming up in Evansville Wednesday night. David Schultz, you think you impress everybody because you beat everybody in the WWF? Big deal, brother. Anybody that can take a TV actor like Mr. T and in 2 weeks have him be able to handle their top talent, that ain't impressing me. They must not have any talent up here. You're in Evansville. You're going to be in a real fight Wednesday night, brother. We'll see if you can handle it.
Ladies and gentlemen, with us now is one of the most controversial men in professional wrestling today. I speak of none other than Dr. D, David Schultz.
It's a pleasure for me to come out here and sit back there and watch the TV monitor and listen to Jerry Lawler, how you've kept up with me, how you've followed me through the years of my professional wrestling career. It's a pleasure to know that somebody that calls herself King comes out here and says that he's going to beat me up, that he's going to whoop me. And to come out here and say something about a little guy this big, a TV actor named Mr. T, that could probably tear you all to pieces, Lawler, and throw you out for garbage and knock somebody like that. Now, I'm going to tell you something, Lawler. I'm going to get down to the pure facts here. It's me and you, boy. Yeah, I said boy with a capital B, because that's all you are. I know how you got your name. It's not King, it's Queen, because Adrian Street told me. I heard him tell somebody else, too. You're a queen, baby. You ain't no king. You ain't no man. You ain't never fought nobody face to face, because I've known you for 10 years, boy. I've known you for 11 years, maybe 12 years. I don't know. But I've never faced you face to face, and I've always wanted to. And I'm going to tell you what, right here in this little redneck, hick town, backwoods, slump area, Evansville, Indiana, you call home your backyard, which I throw up every time I get near the place. I'm going to whoop you like a red-headed stepchild, Lawler. I'm going to beat you so bad your mama won't even know you when I get through with you. You won't ever want to show your face again. And I just want to say again, I'm glad you kept up with my record. And you know that I've whooped everybody in the WWF all through New York City. I've walked the streets looking for somebody to fight. I couldn't find nobody. Now, you say you want to fight me. You're accusing me of jumping in on your back. If I hadn't pulled Randy Savage off of you, you wouldn't even be here today. You ought to be on your knees, boy, begging me for forgiveness. I had your life in my hands, Lawler, and I let you live, boy.
Oh, man. Jerry Lawler stating that he's putting the Macho Man on the back burner for a moment to come after David Schultz. Meanwhile, we see Dr. D there, the promos on YouTube, swastika and all. David Schultz always wanted to meet the King face-to-face, one-on-one, and he's coming for you, boy. You and your AIDS. Awesome promo here from Dr. D.
That's right, folks. Be sure you go and check out the WrestleCopia store at TeePublic for the upcoming Dr. D tribute shirt that says Jerry Lawler has AIDS with a big swastika in the middle. It's going to be a big seller. You don't want him to sell out before you get one.
Put AIDS all around the I don't know. No, I think we'll avoid that one. We'll let somebody else steal that one, I guess. Okay, what are we doing here? Oh, we've got a card.
I guess you just don't like making money, do you?
You don't like people with AIDS, do you, boy? Man. So I don't have results, but the card looks like this, at least the top matches. Jerry Oski again taking on Randy Savage. I don't know if Oski's billed as the champion or we get another title win, if you will. Also on the card, Dr. D, David Schultz, of course, taking on the King, as we just heard. But then we have an 8-man tag team matchup with a strap hanging from a pole. One pole, 8 men. I guess the first guy that gets to the strap gets to use it. As it's going to be the Batten Twins, Constance and Ashley. You know, none of those fuckers got to the strap. And on the other side, it's Lanny Poffo, Adrian Street, and the PYT.
So we're finally paying off the PYTs beating all those guys with the strap.
And I'm assuming we paid it off by them beating them with the strap some more, because there's no way the Battens, Ashley, and Constance go over there.
No, not a chance.
Well, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty now, guys. We move on to Thursday, May the 9th, Lexington, Kentucky. And we got results there. Kareem Muhammad over David Haskins. The Batten Twins defeating Adrian Street and someone under the hood as Mr. Wrestling. It's Steve Constance over J.R. Hogg, Tojo Yamamoto and Jarrett here, scoring a win over Billy Travis in the spoiler. Dr. D, David Schultz, defeating Tim Ashley. Jerry Oski over Lanny Poffo. The Fabulous One scoring a win over the PYT by DQ. And Randy Savage defeating Jerry the King Lawler.
Wow. Okay, so he's no longer the champion, but he's still beating Jerry Lawler.
I have to imagine that Lexington is behind in the loop as far as TV goes, and that's why we still have Savage and Lawler going on. And Schultz taking on Tim Ashley, which was what was originally promoted on a lot of these other shows this week. But Tojo and Jarrett still out here working some shows. And we get another DQ, of course.
Of course. Poor Adrian is just on the bad side of things.
We conclude this week of Memphis Rasslin, heading off May the 10th, Friday night in Brownville, Tennessee at the Haywood High School, featuring Jerry Lawler, Randy Savage, Constance and Ashley. Also, May the 10th in Cowan, Tennessee. Is that right? Cowan?
Yeah.
Are you familiar? Okay. Very good. And I do not have the roster there, but since Savage and Lawler on the other show, I'm going to imagine that Cowan is the B show here.
Yeah, they're getting the Battens and Tojo and all them from earlier.
That strap on a pole gimmick, maybe.
Yeah.
If they're lucky. And that's going to wrap it up for another week in the Memphis territory. We are now heading into mid-May, moving into the summer, it would seem, very shortly here. And things are certainly changing. Bruiser Brody now in town. Can't wait to see how that plays out. I wonder if he'll pop up on TV. But also Dr. D, David Schultz here for at least the time being. Jerry Oski is the new Southern champion. Can't wait to see what Savage has to say about that. So lots to look forward to on the next episode.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about some of that. Like, I get maybe wanting to elevate Oski and put the Southern title on him, but to just do it randomly on one of the shows like that without any build on TV or anything, does it really mean as much? I don't know. It's just feels weird. And that whole Billy Travis and Norvell beating the Fabs feels weird, but maybe if you can get the Fabs to agree to lose, you just do it when you can. I don't know, but man, all these disqualifications after Renesto making this big promo about no more disqualifications. And then, of course, why am I surprised? We turn around and do it again. We do two in the same segment as soon as he gets done saying it. But
right.
For your big main event, that was really the one match that sold the show, because we've already seen the PYTs and the Fabs for a while now. So obviously, if we're coming out to the show, we're coming for that match. We promised the fans no more disqualifications. You want to see winners. We know you want to see winners and losers. And then you say, fuck you. We're giving you a double DQ the very next show after that.
Doubling down on the DQs there on TV afterwards. I wonder if we're even going to reference any of that again next week, or if we're even going to see any more 2 out of 3 fall matches. I'm very curious. Again, I don't watch ahead, so I don't know a whole lot that's coming outside of trying to watch ahead on the arena shows so I can see some of the results of the current arena shows. But outside of that, I don't watch any of the TV, so I'm not really sure what we're walking into next. But for the time being, David Schultz is here. Randy Savage is here. And so it's got to be slightly entertaining, at least when they're on the TV.
And Jerry Lawler has AIDS.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Allegedly.
And we're going to wrap it up on that note because I can't really top that. Jerry Lawler, the king. Jerry, you never told me that you have the AIDS. Stay clear. Oh, man. Heavy times back in Memphis 1985, guys, and we'll talk more about it on the next time around. Gene, thanks so much for being here again. And as we get to close up shop, man, why don't you tell everybody what you got going on right now?
Well, right now we've got the weekly Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Like I say, we're in 1993. Depending on when this drops, we're in September going into October. Heel Vince McMahon is in full effect. He's sending in weekly promos now. We've just recently had the Caged Kings, Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler in a steel cage in Memphis. We had the Giant Gonzalez in the studio, mind you, dodging lights above the ring as he's in the ring wrestling Sam Norris. We don't put him in there with somebody who can make you look good. Don't put him in there with Tony Williams or somebody who has a prayer of getting a little height on that choke slam. No, let's put him in there with Sam Norris, who's like he's got lead in his ass. But we are right smack dab in the middle of the Fabulous One era of Jeff Jarrett, where every week Jerry's got him going out, sitting down with country music stars, sports people, pool players, and the whole point of the entire thing is for at some point in the video to go, Jeff, you really are fabulous. Or at the very least say the phrase, now that's fabulous. Week in and week out. It's been going on for 6 or 7 weeks, and I'm quite frankly so over it, I don't know what to do with myself. But there is some fun stuff on there. We've recently seen the tag team of Brute Force, Slammer, and Jammer.
Yeah, I remember that
they're
from
1
Global.
week. Yeah, they're 1 week in the USWA before they saw their paycheck and quit. And on the show, we played their big hit song, Teenage Lover, which is actually a real song they sang in a bar somewhere, which we thought maybe was the answer to how they got booked. I don't know. Burt Prentice is managing all these WWF stars as they come in. Paul Neighbors has been fired as a referee, so now he is Burt's assistant manager. We've got the dog catchers running around, who we've decided and confirmed with some people aren't even, they're the USWA tag team champions. They're feuding with the Moondogs, but there is not a set pair of dog catchers. They're just putting these masks on different people at different times, and you can tell it's pretty obvious. Their sizes changed. I'm pretty sure they're black sometimes. I don't know, but it's a strange and just maybe not in the way they intended. So check it out. We have a lot of fun there.
Very, very good, guys. And a final reminder to go on over to Patreon and join that all-access tier, the $5 all-access tier. If you have a few dollars more, we would greatly appreciate. And you get the most bang for your buck with the VIP Superfan tier, all the great video casts we do over there. Of course, me and Gene cover the Coliseum video cast. Always a fun time, and we take it less and less seriously every time, and yet somehow it becomes more and more entertaining with every passing episode. Also, the Pro Wrestling Academy video cast with Dan Ginnity, getting ready to launch the Monday Warfare video cast in the upcoming weeks, guys. So lots of great things going on right now, and Survivor Series 88 is upon us very soon, and we're going to have a lot going on over there in the videocast section, all part of the VIP Superfan tier, and more to come, so stay tuned, guys. We may add an additional tier with additional goodies, but we'll have more on that in the weeks to come. But for right now, guys, we're going to wrap it all up. Gene, thanks again for being here, part of Regional Rasslin, Memphis 85. Can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too, as always. Thanks for having me, Ray, and who knows what we'll see next with Renesto around.